Good evening, dear listener. Tonight, as the fire casts its glow and the world grows quiet, I want to share a story that may just change how you see people, pain, and possibility. Because sometimes, the most broken among us are the ones heaven chooses to heal and use. What happens when a man with nothing left to lose walks into a church just to stay warm and walks out with a purpose he never dreamed of? In 2021, in Dayton, Ohio, a man named Terrell James walked out of a county jail with nothing but a trash bag of clothes, a dented Bible someone left behind, and a heart that didn't believe in anything, not even himself. He was 39. He'd spent a total of 14 years in and out of prison. Drugs, robberies, a couple of assaults. He'd lost count. No family waiting. No job prospects. Just a voucher for 2 weeks in a halfway house on Magnolia Street. He walked 4 miles that day because the bus didn't show up. He didn't curse. He didn't pray. He just walked. The halfway house was crumbling. 2 beds to a room. 1 bathroom per floor. Screaming at night. The sound of police radios nearby. Terrell kept to himself. The staff handed him a list of job leads. He stared at it like it was in a different language. "Don't matter," he mumbled. "No one hires a felon." The only thing that kept him from walking into traffic was a promise he made to his grandmother before she died. "Don't die in those walls," she had told him during a visit. "God ain't finished with you." One cold November evening, Terrell wandered outside. No plan, just a need for quiet. He saw a church with an old sign that said, "Tuesday night choir practice, all welcome." He stepped inside, mostly just to stay warm. The sanctuary was empty, except for a handful of older black women, rehearsing gospel hymns, and one lanky teenage boy at the piano. He sat in the back. He didn't believe in God anymore, but something about the sound of that piano made his chest feel less hollow. Then a voice called out, "You here to sing, or just sit there?" He looked up, startled. It was a woman in a red coat, silver hair, fierce eyes. Her name was Mother Elmer. Terrell stood slowly. "I ain't no singer," he muttered. Mother Elmer didn't blink. "Then sit quiet and listen. The Lord'll do the rest." He nodded and sat down again, folding his hands tightly. The choir resumed. The teenage boy at the piano, named Jeremiah, played with a kind of soul Terrell hadn't heard since his grandmother's record player. They sang, "His eye is on the sparrow." And for the first time in years, Terrell cried. Not loud, not shaking, just silent tears on weathered cheeks. When the song ended, he clapped quietly. Elmer walked over and handed him a napkin from her purse. "You sing in the shower?" Terrell chuckled. "Maybe." "Then you're halfway qualified. Come back Thursday." He almost said no, but something in him, maybe guilt, maybe grace, said, "Okay." That Thursday, Terrell returned. He didn't sing at first, just listened, watched, observed. But by the second week, Jeremiah convinced him to hum along. By the third, he joined in on Amazing Grace. And when he hit that low note in the last verse, everyone turned around. Mother Elma beamed. "You've been holding out on us." After practice, Jeremiah handed Terrell a peanut butter sandwich and asked, "You ever think about joining church?" Terrell shrugged. "Church never wanted me." Jeremiah smiled. "Maybe it does now." Terrell thought about that all night, and for the first time in a long time, he prayed, not with words, but with a whisper. "If you're still there, I'm listening." In December, Pastor Ron invited Terrell to help clean up after Sunday services. No one mentioned his record. No one asked where he'd been. They just said, "Thank you," and handed him gloves. He swept the floors like they were marble. By January, he was singing solos. By February, something even stranger happened. A job opened up at the church thrift store. They gave it to him. It paid minimum wage. But it felt like gold. He showed up early, stayed late, pressed clothes, fixed the broken radio, greeted customers with a smile he didn't know he still had. And every now and then, he'd slip a pair of shoes into a homeless man's bag when the cashier wasn't looking. When Elma caught him once, she winked. Sometimes God breaks the rules to bless someone. By March 2022, Terrell had been clean for over a year. He had a roof, a job, a routine. But still, he didn't tell anyone everything. Not about what happened in 2015. Not about the robbery where someone almost died. Not about the guilt that still clawed at his insides when he tried to sleep. He told himself God could forgive it, but he couldn't. One Sunday during choir, Pastor Ron surprised him. "Terrell," he said into the mic, "why don't you share your testimony next week? People need to hear it." Terrell froze. He felt the room spinning. Mother Elma leaned in and whispered, "If the Lord brought you out, don't hide it. Someone's still in." He nodded, slowly. The next Sunday, he stood before the congregation, hands trembling. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he began. He shared the prison years, the fights, the drugs, the moment he almost ended his own life with a bedsheet, and the day he stumbled into choir practice just to get warm. He looked down. "I thought I was garbage," he said, then paused. "But I think God sees compost, something broken that can still grow." There was silence, then applause, then tears. Pastor Ron stepped forward and said, "There's someone here tonight who needed that more than they'll ever say." That night, after service, a woman waited by the door. Her name was Anita. She was the mother of the man Terrell had nearly killed during the 2015 robbery. Terrell felt like his chest collapsed. I'm sorry," he said, barely above a whisper. "I didn't know he was your son." I didn't. She put a hand on his. He survived, she said. But he lost a lot. So did we. Terrell nodded, eyes watering. I'll never stop regretting it. She paused, then said softly, and I'll never stop grieving. But I saw the man you are now, and I think my son would want me to forgive. Terrell collapsed into her arms, sobbing like a child. Jeremiah watched from behind the organ, tears in his eyes. 2 months later, Terrell was baptized. The church stood and clapped as he rose from the water, eyes closed, face lifted. Later that night, he wrote in his journal, "I was dead, and now I'm alive. I don't understand it all, but I believe it." That summer, the city of Dayton faced a crisis. The neighborhood around the church, long neglected, was being targeted for redevelopment. Landlords were hiking rents, displacing families, bulldozing character. Even the church itself got a letter. The city planned to reclaim the property and replace it with high-rise condos. Pastor Ron called a meeting. People were furious, scared, hopeless. Terrell sat in the back until someone said, "We need someone who knows the streets. Someone who knows how to talk to the ones in power." And eyes turned to him. He stepped up to the front, heart pounding. "I'm no politician," he said, "but I know what it feels like to be forgotten, to be treated like trash, and I'm not going to let them do it to this place." Elma nodded from her seat. Jeremiah stood and clapped first. The rest followed. Terrell spent the next 2 months knocking on doors, gathering signatures, organizing prayer circles on the front lawn, learning city policy from scratch. He didn't know if it would work, but he knew he had to try. The night before the city vote, the council held a public hearing. Terrell stood at the podium. His hands didn't shake. He told them about the men who walked into that church to get warm and left with hope. He told them about how that little choir saved his life. He said, "You can put up luxury buildings, or you can preserve a sanctuary that saves souls, but you can't have both." The room was silent. Then, an elderly councilwoman leaned into her mic and asked, "What's your name again, sir?" He answered, "Terrell James." She smiled gently. "You're the boy who used to mop the hallways at Roosevelt High." He blinked. "Yes, ma'am." She nodded. "I remember. You had fire in your eyes. I'm glad you found your way back." That night, the council voted 4-3 to preserve the church. The next Sunday, the choir sang louder than ever. Terrell stood at the center with Jeremiah on piano, leading the congregation in "A Change Is Gonna Come." People who had never set foot in church came just to see the man who saved the block. But Terrell didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a servant, like maybe finally he was living the life his grandma always prayed for. That fall, Jeremiah applied to Berklee College of Music. He was terrified. "Tuition's insane," he told Terrell. Terrell smiled. Let God worry about the money. You just chase what's already yours. A month later, Jeremiah got in. Full scholarship. A church member had anonymously paid the remainder. Jeremiah never found out who it was. But the night before he left for Boston, he hugged Terrell tight and said, "You're the reason I believe in miracles." Terrell shook his head, eyes glistening. "No, man, you're the miracle." Weeks passed, then months. Terrell became a deacon in training. He began leading recovery groups, mentoring kids who were headed down paths like the one he barely survived. And then came the fire. It started in the church basement, old wiring, a short fuse. It was late at night. Only Terrell was inside, cleaning up after the Tuesday food pantry. The fire spread fast. He could have run, should have. But then he heard it, a cough. He sprinted through the thick smoke and found Elma, unconscious by the rear exit. She'd returned for her forgotten purse. Terrell lifted her. She was light as a bundle of robes and carried her out through the alley door. Flames licked the back of his hoodie as he fell to his knees, coughing, eyes watering. When the paramedics arrived, they said he'd passed out shielding her body with his own. Elma survived without a burn. Terrell suffered second-degree burns to his back and arms. He awoke in a hospital bed 2 days later. Elma was sitting beside him, humming "His Eye is on the Sparrow." Terrell healed slowly. The physical pain was rough, but the outpouring of love from the community made it bearable. People he barely knew brought meals to his apartment. Kids from the neighborhood wrote cards that said things like, "Thank you for being brave. You're the reason our block still has hope." And from Jeremiah, a letter arrived in handwritten cursive. "They told me about the fire. You didn't just save Ms. Elma. You saved the rest of us. Again. I'm dedicating my first composition to you. It's called Grace in the Fire." Terrell wept, holding that letter to his chest. By spring 2024, he was back at the church. The building had suffered damage, but stood strong. The city pitched in to help restore it. And this time, the mayor showed up. She shook Terrell's hand on the church steps and said, "You changed the soul of this neighborhood." He looked her in the eyes and answered, "No, Mom. God did. I just stopped fighting him." On Easter Sunday, Pastor Ron announced something unexpected. The new community center next door, the one opening this summer, it's being named in honor of someone who showed us what faith, redemption, and courage really mean. He gestured to the side of the church, where a fresh mural had been painted. It showed a man in a choir robe, standing in front of a sunrise. At the bottom, it read, "The Terrell James Center for Second Chances." Terrell dropped his head and wept into his hands. Mother Elma stood beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You see, baby," she whispered, "God doesn't just use the clean hands, He uses the scarred ones too." Dear listener, tonight's story is more than just about a man who turned his life around. It's about the grace that meets us when we think we're too far gone. It's about how God puts the right people in the right place at the exact moment we're ready to listen. It's about how bravery isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to rise when you could stay down. And it's about how you, yes, you, can be someone's miracle. If you feel broken, unseen, or stuck in shame, remember Terrell. His story proves that even ashes can lead to purpose. If the story touched your heart and would like to listen to more like it, you know where to find us.